What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Front Range Aquascapes. This week, we're going to be doing tank maintenance. I know I've done a tank maintenance video before, but this week's is going to be a little different. First of all, because I have significantly more tanks than I did at that time, and also because, I'm going to be honest, I've been really busy with work the last couple of weeks, so I've kind of been neglecting my tanks. So, we're going to be, like, this tank you can see is just taken over by hair algae. So, we're going to be doing some algae removal. We're going to be doing water changes. We're going to be cleaning out filter material. I guess just follow along and we'll see what we do. Is we're going to go ahead and manually remove the majority of the hair algae. Alright, and there we go. We've got all the hair algae out. And yes, there's a couple of patches of blackbeard algae, but I'm going to be honest, I'm not super worried about that. Let's see if I can... I pulled that piece off, so it's fine. Alright, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do a water change. And while I'm doing the water change, I'm going to vacuum over all of that valve and get some more of the hair algae out. And yes, I know that while I was removing the algae, I took some of the smaller val out, but trust me, I'm not hurting for Vallisneria in this tank, or I've got a couple of other tanks where it's just taking over, so we'll be okay. Alright, now that we've gone ahead and pulled 5 gallons out, and this is a 20 long, so that's 25% water change. I'm going to go ahead, and first of all, I'll clean the glass for you guys again. And I'm going to go ahead and clean the top of the filter off. Just get any dust and shit like that off of it. I'm going to do the same to my light. Again, just to make sure there's no dust or debris or anything like that. Old food. So yeah. Just wipe everything down while I have it apart. And then I'm going to take the pre-filter sponge, which is covered in hair algae. I'm going to take it off and rinse it out in the tank water that I just pulled out. And even though this tank is absolutely overgrown with val, I'm not going to do any trimming or anything in this tank because it's kind of my val factory. So it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, which is growing an absolute metric shit ton of Vallisneria. And now I'm going to go ahead and pull the filter media out as well. And we're going to rinse it out in the same tank water. Got that all rinsed out. And I'm not showing this because, let's be honest, if you've watched one person rinse out filter media, you've watched how to filter out or how to rinse out filter media. And now I'm going to put the top back on. And now we're just going to top it off with dechlorinated water. All right, and there is one down. All right, so the first thing we need to do to this tank is we actually need to go ahead and get rid of some of this duckweed. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to scare the shrimp out of the duckweed because there are a bunch of shrimp and shrimplets hanging out in said duckweed. So I just went through and tapped it, and that should have got most of them out. And I'll be honest, if there's a few shrimplets or something that got trapped in here, I'm kind of okay with that because this tank is absolutely going bonkers with sun-kissed orange neocardinas. All right. There is almost all the duckweed out at the moment. And because this is a shrimp tank, I don't do water changes on it every week. Believe it or not, I had done a water change on the 20-gallon last week. I just didn't do any trimming or anything like that. But on this tank, like I said, because it's a shrimp tank, it's pretty much on autopilot. They like it to be pretty consistent. I test the water. It's testing absolutely perfect. 0, 0, and like 20. So I'm just going to leave that one alone. Let's move to the next. All right. Next up is Super Dario's tank. And on Super Dario's tank, which is my Dario or Scarlet Batis, and there he is making an appearance. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get rid of some duckweed in this tank as well. This tank is a little more difficult to get duckweed out of, and I'm not going to do nearly as good a job, unfortunately. But we are going to make an attempt to get some of the damned duckweed out of here. I hate duckweed. And in this tank, we're going to go ahead and do a small water change. Suck up a little bit of detritus and stuff. This tank does have shrimp in it as well, so I'm not going to go crazy sucking up the detritus because that's kind of what they live on. Alright, and that is more than enough. And this tank is having a bit of an overflowing problem, which just developed in the last couple of days, which lets me know a couple of things. First off, I need to clean this, the pre-filter. Okay, and we'll put the pre-filter sponge back on the intake. And yep, the filter sponge was most definitely very nasty. So we'll clean this out, and that will have alleviated our overflow problem because this was so clogged up that it was backing up flow. All right, got the sponge put back in. I'm going to do the same thing, just wipe off the cover of this filter, pop it back on. Just like so. Wipe off my light. And there we go. And there we are, 3 down. This one's going to be a little bit murky, but it will clear up quickly. It was just because that filter was so clogged up. But now I can see that the water level is at a much more reasonable level and won't be overflowing anymore. So that's a good thing. Next up, into the woods. All right, actually, I lied. The first tank that we are going, or the next tank that we're going to do is actually the boulder field, because this tank does not get enough love and its lights will be going out here pretty shortly. So right now I'm just scrubbing the majority of the algae off. I'm not a stickler. If there's a little bit of algae, that's fine. It just means it's a healthy tank. Like here on the silicone, that shit's never coming off. That, and as you can see, I like to leave my backs to where they can get algae covered. I find that, especially like this tank has unknown variety of shrimp. Like I have no idea what type of shrimp is in this tank. They were supposed to be monos, but they don't eat algae and they reproduce in fresh water. So I have no idea what they are. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and do a water change on this tank as well. Trying not to suck up any baby guppies because they're stupid. But I am going to try to suck up as much of this floating detritus that I just kicked up as I can. Alright, so I accidentally pulled up some of this Belodia, so I'm going to go ahead and replant that shit. I rinsed out the pre-filter like I do on all of them. Alright. And this is going to kick up a bunch of crap, but it's just Molman stuff from a healthy tank. And yeah, it absolutely looks like shit right now. But we'll give it just a little while we do a water change on another tank. And then we'll come back and take a look at this and see if it's cleared up and looks better. Alright, so the next one to do some maintenance on is Catfish Cove. The creatures are doing great, but the Val has just taken over. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do a water change. Actually, first I'm going to go ahead and trim up some of the Val. Then we'll do a water change. And then we'll move on to a couple of other tanks. So I am going to go ahead and pull out a little bit of water before I get started with trimming, just so that I don't make a mess, because this tank does have an automatic top off on it, so it always stays pretty full. Unfortunately, I didn't pay attention, and I pulled too much out, and now the automatic top off is automatically topping off. So I'm just going to go in here and start trying to gently uproot some of this val that, like I said, is just, I love Vallisneria, but it is just taking over this tank, and I can't have that. So we're going to go ahead and thin this out some. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fish out this clump of Rotala Vietnam Atra that is unfortunately not doing the greatest because it was getting choked out by the val. But now I've got a bunch of val taken out. And it's one of the rare instances where we actually get to see all of my creatures. There's one of the stone catfish. The other one was over here somewhere. Oh, there's the other one right there. You can barely see it. But now we're going to go ahead and do a larger water change. And even though it has all sorts of shit that's stirred up right now, it should go back to looking pretty good here pretty quickly. I am going to go ahead and hit it with a dose of fertilizer. And what I use for fertilizer is just Aquarium Co-op Easy Green. And I'll show you a picture of it tomorrow after it clears up. But it's cool because I'm sure that the Asian stone catfish will show up, and I know that both of them were out and about. One of them still is. All my cories are out and about, and the shrimp are just everywhere. So enjoy while I go grab the Easy Green. All right, and I'm not sponsored by Aquarium Co-op, although Corey, if you see this, hey, I would love to be sponsored by you. Just kidding. He's not going to see this. But anyway, just one pump for 10 gallons. And middle of the week, I'll probably end up adding a second pump for good measure. Okay, I'm not exactly sure where I left off, but this is my 15 centimeter cube Sunkissed Orange Neocardina tank. And really, all we're going to do on this tank is I'm going to do a small water change, and then I'm going to unplug the filter and clean out the filter foam because it's clogged and I'm not getting hardly any flow at all in this tank. So, and this is a shrimp only tank. As you can tell, it's heavily planted. I just got rid of a bunch of duckweed, and there's still a crap load on here. But I'm going to attempt to get rid of all the duckweed eventually. And that's why some of my plants are looking a little shitty, is because they haven't been getting the light they need. But hopefully we'll take care of that. And that's all the water I dare take out of that tank. And I'm going to go ahead and give this one just a little pump of the Easy Green. And like I said, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the filter. And I'm actually going to pull the filter all the way out, get all the scrimps off of it because they're all hanging out on it feeding. All right, so water change done, filter maintenance done. I need to do is fill the filter back up with water because I let it run dry, unfortunately. And so for that, I'm just going to use all right. And now I'm just going to plug this back in and make sure we're good. All right, there we go. Last but not least is my other 15 centimeter cube that has my RCSs in it, my red cherry shrimp. So once again, we're just going to do a small water change. I'm going to scrub the glass down a little bit because there's a little bit of algae growing on the glass. I had thought about trimming the spiky moss, but I kind of like what it's doing right now. So I think I'm going to leave it for the time being, and next water change, I'll go ahead and trim it up. But like I said, I really like what it's doing right now. So first things first, let's pull a little water out of this thing. All right, and that's more than enough. And one thing that I just noticed is that I have an Elodia back here that has come unplanted. So we're going to go ahead and plant this thing back in. There. And I'm trying to pull some of the spiky moss off of the filter, but not all of it. I kind of like the look of it growing a little wildly back there. So next up, like I said, we're going to scrape and scrub the glass. So to do that, I have just a razor blade scraper. And we're just going to worry about the front glass because that's where my viewing angle is. All right. And now I'm just using a melamine sponge aka magic eraser, to go through and get whatever I missed. And there we go. And now we'll go ahead and just top this one off. And yes, that stirred up a whole bunch of detritus and shit like that. But shrimp are detrivores, so it's not a big deal. And I'm going to go ahead and, just like with all my other tanks, I'm going to give this just a little squirt of Easy Green. And there you go. Thank you guys for following along as I do some tank maintenance, water changes, stuff like that. There were a couple of tanks that were left out of this video, this one being one of them. And that's because those tanks have been so neglected that the two of those tanks alone doing some rehab. And honestly, on this tank, I'm probably going to be doing like a mild rescape. They're going to be their own separate video. Should be coming in the next week or two. Until then, if you stuck around this long, I'd like to ask you to like, share, subscribe. I know it's beating a dead horse, but it really does help. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. As of this video, I'm at 99 subscribers. I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but I'm only a one away from 100 subscribers. It's kind of a big thing for just some grease monkey that's out working on cars during the day and playing with fish at night. So until next time, y'all, thank you for following along with Front Range Aquascapes. Remember to get them wet. Get your hands at the tank. If you don't work, your tanks aren't going to look great. Peace.